After multiple relationships ending in failure, she was looking for the right man to spend her life with.
She's trying to find people that will give her the love that she so greatly desires.
Eventually, she met a man that was just as gorgeous as she was.
She thought there's still hope for me, and I'm gonna seize this moment.
But a violent encounter turns her fairy tale romance into a horror story.
Her body was found in a ditch.
There are numerous stab wounds.
Whoever did this wanted to make sure that she suffered.
The search for a suspect leads detectives in multiple directions.
She was involved with a lot of different romantic interests.
Did arguments ever get physical?
Yeah, but that happens sometimes.
They couldn't have a civil conversation. It was very volatile.
I'll be telling, be careful who you're dealing with.
He is an individual that sort of has put himself in a savior position.
But would her savior eventually become her downfall?
There's a thin line between love and hate.
She's cursing at me. You ain't like this, you like that.
Over time, you start to need the high.
It's like having the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other shoulder.
I believe that she was possessed by some demon.
April 19th, 2015. It's a warm Sunday morning in Delray Beach, a quaint coastal town along Florida's Atlantic shore.
Delray Beach is actually a much different vibe than some of your more common places in South Florida. Delray Beach is a much slower pace.
You see people fishing, you see the boats in the canals. That's kind of what people are about, just the natural beauty, the relaxation, the water.
But around 9 a.m. this morning, a local resident is traveling along a remote stretch of road when he spots something unusual.
He noticed something that looked suspicious in a ditch. And as he got closer, he did realize that it was a young lady.
He sees her laying in the grass, unresponsive, and, you know, he's not sure what's wrong. He contacts 911.
First responders race to the location.
Protocol when someone's unresponsive is to get to the scene as soon as possible, because there's a possibility that that person still could be alive.
They had no idea if this woman was having a medical issue or what was going on.
When Palm Beach County deputies arrive on the scene, they quickly realize they're too late to help the young woman.
The police get there, and it becomes immediately apparent that obviously she is deceased.
Her body was cold to the touch, so police knew that she had been dead for some time.
At that point, you realize there's no saving this person. Now your job is to preserve the scene.
And as deputies begin to secure the area, they notice something lying near the woman's body.
There was a wallet on the ground next to the body, and inside of that wallet, police found an ID card.
They quickly identified who she was.
Her name was Vanessa Williams.
28-year-old single mother Vanessa Williams had a smile that could light up a room.
She was this beautiful young lady.
She was very social and enjoyed spending time with her friends.
Ambitious and caring to her core, Vanessa had always dreamed of becoming a therapist. But a relationship from her teenage years with a handsome classmate named Nate Tyler had taken her on a different path.
They were high school sweethearts who were very much in love.
Vanessa was so certain that they would go the distance that she even got Nate's name tattooed on her neck. But when she got pregnant, it caused a lot of friction between the two of them.
The stress of teenage parenthood was too much for their relationship to bear, and the couple parted ways soon after the birth of their son.
On her own, as a single parent, she resolved to give her son the best life she could manage. But she kind of had to put her dreams of becoming a therapist on hold.
She was a wonderful mom.
Vanessa managed to finish school while juggling motherhood. But instead of going to college, she jumped into a relationship with a new partner, a man named Stuart Bird.
After graduating from high school, she pretty immediately fell in love with another man from town. They moved in together, and he started helping her with her son.
Well, hey there. How was work?
Oh, busy.
Stuart seemed like someone who would take care of her. He had a lot of love for his family, and that was something that Vanessa really appreciated about him.
They talked about getting married and having kids together.
But it was another union that wasn't meant to last.
Their relationship eventually became a little bit toxic.
They split up after 3 years together.
By her mid-20s, Vanessa once again found herself struggling as a single mom.
She went on with her life, trying to pick up the pieces, but she never gave up on love.
She's trying to find different people that will give her the love she so greatly desires. And she's meeting disappointment after disappointment with the types of men that she's involved with.
Finally, in 2011, Vanessa met a man who seemed different from the rest.
Excuse me, miss?
Yeah.
I think you dropped this.
Oh, thank you.
John Chapman was a handsome military veteran, young, fit, knew how to present himself.
They were two very good-looking young people who immediately were attracted to one another.
I don't mean to be too forward, but do you think I can get your phone number?
Sure.
And John Chapman fell in love. They started dating.
Vanessa felt like she'd finally found a relationship that would last.
Things were going really well for Vanessa this time around.
With John's help at home, she was able to focus a little bit more on herself. She was working as a medical assistant during the day and taking classes at night so that she could work towards her dreams of becoming a therapist.
But now, instead of seeing her dreams come true, Vanessa Williams has been found dead in a secluded area of Palm Beach County.
Police quickly went into trying to find out what had happened to this beautiful young lady.
They weren't sure if this was some sort of accident or if she was out walking when maybe she suffered some type of medical emergency.
When detectives arrive on the scene, they move in for a closer look at Vanessa's body.
When the police turn over the body, there are numerous stab wounds on her face, on her neck, on her back.
Vanessa was stabbed over 23 times. Whoever did this wanted to make sure that she suffered bad.
After a series of failed relationships, 28-year-old Vanessa Williams finally found a man to stand by her side.
You have John as this military man, and he looks refined, and he's showing himself in a way that, hey, I'm strong and I can protect you. And this is the kind of strength that she's looking for.
The happy couple was looking forward to a bright future together. But now, Vanessa has been found dead on the side of a remote road in Palm Beach County.
It's the beginning of the investigation. They don't have all the information, but from what they've seen so far, this appears to be gruesome, violent.
They were able to determine that Vanessa had been stabbed 23 times.
The question now is, why?
They find money, they find jewelry. Her chain is still on her.
The fact those property pieces that were still there with her indicated not a robbery.
They believe that this is a personal attack. This was someone who had malice and anger, and they took it out on Vanessa Williams.
However, due to a lack of blood pooling, investigators suspect that the violent stabbing didn't happen here.
Law enforcement concludes that she must have been killed somewhere else and brought to this location.
It almost looked like there was an intent to try and hide her location. Maybe a hasteful attempt at best.
There are other things there that indicate that they left in a hurry. They see an indentation from where a tire was. They find a flip-flop.
It looked like when Vanessa's body was dragged out of whatever vehicle it was in, all this other debris got dragged out with her.
One item in particular stands out to the investigators.
They find a floor mat from a vehicle that's soaked in blood, and they really want to know, whose blood is this? Does this belong to the victim?
It's also potential evidence for DNA from the assailant. Most stabbings or cuttings, the person who is the attacker will typically injure themselves.
Detectives spot another crucial piece of evidence left behind by Vanessa's killer.
They find a wooden-handled knife that looks like it could be the murder weapon.
After the evidence is bagged and sent out for testing, Vanessa's body is transported to the medical examiner's office for an autopsy.
Judging by the degree of lividity in Vanessa's body, the medical examiner believes that she had been dead for about 24 hours.
Lividity is the accumulation of the blood in the lower extremities of the body.
A blood test reveals another surprising new piece of information, that at the time of her death, Vanessa had a street drug known as Flakka in her system.
Flakka came in, I believe, around 2015, 2014 in the Florida area here. There was a lot of reports of crazy behavior, zombie-like behavior, aggressiveness, extreme strength.
Flakka took bath salts and it was manipulated, and it gave you a much more intense high and hallucinations, and anybody could pretty much get their hands on it.
Immediately, law enforcement are thinking that maybe this was some drug deal gone wrong. Maybe this was a drug user who had crossed someone.
Armed with this new information, detectives begin trying to learn more about who their victim was.
One of the things that they observed that the medical examiner told them about was that there is a tattoo on the back of Vanessa's neck, and the name of that tattoo was Nate.
Vanessa's social media appears to confirm that she had a man in her life around the time she died. But his name isn't Nate. It's John Chapman.
One of the first places police look is to the boyfriend. He is a former military guy, someone that police can identify with.
When police spoke with John, he was devastated to find out what had happened to his girlfriend. He said that she was a wonderful mom, a great person.
John strikes the detectives as sad, but not especially surprised.
I was afraid something like this might happen.
He said she had some habits that she had fallen into, involving drugs and alcohol.
John tells the police that Vanessa's drug use had been getting worse lately. A lot worse.
It started out, I just had a long day at work, and I just need a little something to take the edge off. But over time, you start to need the high.
Vanessa had her struggles. And with her having children, with her having the responsibility of being a mother, of being a partner, trying to co-parent, there are certain things that contributed to her drug use.
Vanessa, seriously? This is getting way out of hand.
John Chapman told them that Vanessa had been out of control, and in one of those drug and alcohol-fueled incidents, she left.
How about you stop telling me how to live my life?
He said she had taken off without telling him where she was going.
He tried to call her to figure out where she was. He couldn't get in contact with her.
I thought that I was gonna be able to see her again, but...
Do you know anyone that might want to hurt her? Drug dealer, ex-boyfriend?
I know she had issues with her ex.
John actually shared with police that Vanessa's relationship with Stewart was extremely toxic. They couldn't have a civil conversation. It was very volatile.
They had some mutual friends and would run into each other from time to time. And Stewart would always try to weasel his way back in.
She couldn't fully get away from this guy.
And according to John Chapman, Stewart Bird had a history of domestic violence against Vanessa Williams. He had attacked her in the past, and of course, John felt like he would do it again.
I didn't trust her, and I know she didn't either.
He told the police that that's the place where they should start looking.
John was adamant that Stewart Bird had something to do with this.
Vanessa Williams' boyfriend, John Chapman, has just told Palm Beach County Police that she was battling drug addiction in the months before she was murdered.
Vanessa was a mom, a student, a healthcare worker, and unfortunately, she had turned to substances to deal with all of the stressors in her life.
Before you know it, we're self-medicating. And so where someone may say, you know, that could never be me, before you know it, it is you.
According to John, Vanessa had been behaving increasingly erratically in the weeks before she was killed. And shortly before her body was discovered, she'd complained about running into her ex, Stewart Bird.
After getting this information, police immediately went into the background of Stewart, and they discovered that he had an extensive record. He had burglary, domestic strangulation, grand theft, and child abuse.
At that moment, Stewart Bird became suspect number one.
But when detectives bring Stewart in for questioning, he seems shocked.
Stewart denied having any responsibility for killing Vanessa.
What? No. Listen, y'all have the wrong guy.
However, he does acknowledge there were moments in their 3-year relationship he's not proud of.
He admitted that things got pretty heated between them.
Did arguments ever get physical between the two of you?
Yeah. But that happens sometimes.
With that relationship, there was domestic violence.
It shows his ability, his possibility of creating a violent scenario with Vanessa.
They want to know, where were you on the night of April the 18th?
According to Stewart, he has an alibi for the night Vanessa was killed.
Stewart Bird tells them, well, I was working all night. He gives them the name of his employer.
You can call my supervisor right now, he'll tell you.
Police were able to contact his employer, who confirmed that Stewart was definitely at work on the night that Vanessa was murdered. So now they're back to square one.
Eager to drum up new leads, police shift their focus to the people who knew Vanessa best.
Vanessa's parents lived about an hour away in Miami, and while they were still grieving the loss of their daughter, they were ready to talk to detectives.
Vanessa's parents were devastated. It is extremely heartbreaking as a parent to know that your child was killed.
Vanessa's parents tell detectives that their daughter had a long history of troubled relationships.
I always tell them, men, he wants only your money and something else.
Right.
And I be telling them, be careful who you're dealing with.
So in cases like this, either you have a lot of suspects or you have nobody. And this case had a lot of suspects. She was involved with a lot of different romantic interests.
Vanessa's parents also confirm what John Chapman said in his interview about Vanessa's rampant drug use.
She went use the drugs.
You know what kind of drugs? Cocaine?
No. That I don't know.
She was dealing with a lot. It's like having the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other shoulder. I have my responsibilities, but I don't know how to cope.
Vanessa's parents say the last time they saw their daughter was about a week ago when she stopped by for a surprise visit.
What time was that? Around 5 something. 5:30.
What kind of car did she have?
She didn't have a car. She said it's a friend car. She was driving a truck.
What kind of truck?
White, I think white, I don't know if it's a Ford.
The truck was alleged to have belonged to Corey Summers, a friend of hers.
But other than Corey's name, Vanessa's parents know nothing about him.
I met it once.
Okay.
After Vanessa left in Corey's truck, her parents never heard from her again.
I started texting her, but I never had no response from her.
Did you call her after that? Did you ever, after that point, talk to her again?
Never.
Based on this information, investigators want to speak with Corey Summers as soon as possible.
The question now was, did Corey have a reason to want Vanessa dead?
After speaking with her parents, Florida detectives have learned that Vanessa Williams was last seen driving her friend Corey Summers' truck around the time she was killed.
Did you ever, after that point, talk to her again?
Never.
When detectives reach out to Corey Summers, they're surprised to hear he's been waiting for a call from law enforcement.
What's that? Anyone phone it?
Corey thought the police were calling about his truck, the one that he had allegedly let Vanessa borrow.
Corey explains that he's a long-haul trucker who'd been out on the road until a few days earlier.
When he came back from one of his long-haul trips on April 17th, his truck was missing. There was a police report made.
When detectives explain they're calling under graver circumstances, Corey seems grief-stricken.
Here's the deal. We're working a homicide investigation. Vanessa's dead.
I don't believe it.
He agrees to come into the police station to give an official statement.
Corey confirmed that he and Vanessa were friends, and he said he allowed her to stay at his place after she and her boyfriend John got into a huge argument about her drug use.
She asked me to stay. I told her okay because I don't hardly ever be home.
He says that Vanessa has stayed with me from time to time. I've allowed her to crash here when she's needed to. I'll see her, and then I'll go out on the road for several days, and then I'll come back.
Corey insists the relationship between them was entirely platonic.
One of the things I gotta ask you, were you intimate at all, you and her?
No.
Never?
No.
Okay.
Corey, he is an individual that sort of has put himself in a savior position. He tries to help people. He's trying to help Vanessa, trying to give her a place to stay.
They had an arrangement where Corey would allow Vanessa to use his pickup truck while he was out on the road.
She doesn't have the transportation to get and back and forth from work.
Okay.
So I told her to use my truck. Just be careful with it.
But the last time he got home, Corey says Vanessa and his truck were gone.
Vanessa was missing, and his apartment was in shambles, as if there had been a struggle or fight going on in there.
I know she had company, but I don't know who she had there.
He didn't know what happened. He tried to reach out to her. He couldn't get in contact with her.
In speaking with Corey, he seemed to be very forthcoming, very cooperative, very willing to help the police, but they are not sure if they are able to trust him.
Again, I gotta ask you this because if it comes out later on, I want to make sure we're clear. Did you guys have any intimate relationship between you two?
A long time ago.
When was that?
That was months ago.
But before you told me that you didn't.
We're not really sure if there's a relationship there. Maybe, maybe not. So you have to look at that. Was he jealous?
But Corey insists he wasn't even in the same state at the time when police believe Vanessa was killed.
I was in Georgia.
You were in Jersey?
Georgia.
At the end of the interview, Corey agrees to turn his cell phone over to police.
We need your phone just to make sure everything checks out.
Sure, okay.
And while it's sent out for analysis, detectives track down the last name on their list. The father of Vanessa's oldest son, Nate Tyler.
Although he and Vanessa broke up years ago, they were still on good terms for the sake of their son.
They were extremely close, although they were only platonic.
And according to Nate, the last time he saw Vanessa, she'd confided in him that she was struggling.
You know, she had been telling me things weren't going well with John, her boyfriend. And she'd been staying with some other guy, Corey, I think.
Yeah, we've already talked to Corey.
Nate tells the investigators that on another occasion, he'd witnessed the tension between Vanessa and John firsthand.
There was an incident that Nate shared with police where they were all hanging out and something transpired that really ticked John off to the extent that he started throwing furniture, became vulgar, got very violent.
It was shocking, you know? It happened out of nowhere.
Did Vanessa say these type of outbursts happen often?
Yeah. Yeah, she did.
She told him that John was abusive, that John would go fly off the handle for different reasons.
She confided in Nate about all of the threatenings, the stalkings, the verbal abuse, the beatings that she was getting.
Based on what they're hearing from Nate, detectives have to wonder, has John been misleading them all along?
At this point, getting out there, finding John, and getting face-to-face with John is very important.
But when detectives try to bring John Chapman in for another round of questioning, they quickly hit a roadblock.
They'd say, we gotta pick this guy up and talk to him again. But there's only one problem.
In the spring of 2015, Palm Beach County investigators have had no shortage of suspects in the murder of 28-year-old Vanessa Williams. So far, they've spoken with her ex, Stuart Bird, close friend, Corey Summers, and even her high school sweetheart, Nate Tyler. But unfortunately, all three men seem to have airtight alibis.
Thanks to phone records, police were able to confirm that their three prior suspects had not been in the area at the time Vanessa was murdered.
Stuart was confirmed to be at work, and Corey in Georgia. And Nate was out of town visiting some friends.
However, in speaking with Nate Tyler, investigators have unearthed a new suspect, a man they're already familiar with, Vanessa's most recent boyfriend, John Chapman.
According to Nate, Vanessa had confided in him about her very tumultuous relationship with John.
John had been abusing her, both physically and verbally.
She was trying to get away from John. She was trying to cut ties with him.
He conducted himself in a way that was reckless, dangerous, and possibly deadly.
Detectives want to speak with John Chapman again as soon as possible, but they'll have to find him first.
He's gone. He's on the run.
He wasn't at home or at work. He wasn't answering his phone.
Detectives think John may be traveling in Corey Summers' missing pickup truck. And before long, they receive a promising tip about the stolen vehicle's location.
There was actually an APB put out on Corey's truck, and they found it in front of the home of a Lana Palmer.
Lana Palmer is alleged to have been romantically involved with John Chapman. They had an on-again, off-again relationship between the two of them.
By the time police respond, the truck is gone.
They go in there, no John Chapman, but they do find Lana Palmer.
Can I help you?
When they questioned Lana about the truck in front of her home, she admitted that John had come by.
The last time that she saw John Chapman, on April the 18th, he came there driving a white truck, clothes covered in blood.
John? Oh my God, what did you do?
He was very bloody, He looked like he had been through just too much, and showing up to her home, asking for refuge, if you will.
She asked him, "What happened, John?"
He said he'd been fighting with someone. I could tell he was lying, though.
Baby, I had to defend myself.
He told her that he had gotten into a fight with one of Vanessa's ex-boyfriends. She didn't believe the story, but since he was acting so weird, she just allowed him to come inside, take a shower, and clean up.
Okay, just go rinse all that off, please.
But after John washed up, Lana witnessed more strange behavior from him.
She saw him take a SIM card out of a phone and rip it in half.
She realized that there was something awry here, and the story that he was given just didn't line up.
I don't know what you're up to, but I want you out. Told him to get out, and he did.
Do you have any idea where he may have went?
No, not a clue.
She said he took his things and he left.
Lana insists she hasn't seen or heard from John since that night. And with no other leads on their suspect's location, investigators are back at square one.
They start to intensify their efforts to find him because the clock is ticking.
As an investigator, you need to get to John as soon as possible.
Police reached out to law enforcement agencies in the surrounding areas to be on the lookout for John. They also enlisted the aid of the U.S. Marshals to help look for him.
Soon, their efforts pay off.
Eventually, they got a tip that the truck had been seen in Miami.
The tip led them to an apartment complex where they found the truck parked outside.
And inside the truck, police make an alarming discovery.
There's blood everywhere.
Based on the amount of blood, police believe that this may be where Vanessa was killed.
They found a green purse that they thought must have belonged to Vanessa, as well as a flip-flop that matched the one found at the body's dump site.
Now more than ever, investigators know they need to track down John Chapman.
Investigators go door to door looking for John Chapman. They don't find him anywhere. But what they do discover is near to that apartment complex is a homeless shelter.
Inside the homeless shelter, police finally locate John.
As he's getting dressed, they take him into custody. The police have their man.
Back in Palm Beach, detectives are eager to sit down with their #1 suspect.
They immediately started peppering him with questions about what had happened to Vanessa, and to their surprise, he didn't hold back.
Vanessa was, she wasn't herself at all. I had to kill her.
John finally confessed to the murder.
But that's not all he says.
He tells them that it was in self-defense. He said she attacked him with a knife.
I believe that she was possessed by some demon.
Have finally arrested John Chapman for the murder of his 28-year-old girlfriend, Vanessa Williams.
They take him into custody, and they start to question him.
Now in the interrogation room, John has just made a stunning confession.
She wasn't herself at all. I had to kill her.
He tells them that it was in self-defense.
I would hate to say that I'm a spiritual person, but I believe that she was possessed by some demon.
John tells the investigators it all started when he went to see Vanessa at Corey Summers' house on the night of April 18th.
Let's start with what led to this.
Drugs.
Drugs?
He showed up at Corey's place to discuss their relationship and found her out of her mind on drugs.
When I got there, I realized that there was a lot of meth in the carpet.
Vanessa, what the hell are you doing?
He found Vanessa Williams searching the carpet for Flocka flakes.
He said now that he realized how deep in addiction she is, he realizes that he no longer wants to be with Vanessa.
John, can you help me?
He says it disgusted him that Vanessa Williams' drug use was so out of control.
John tells detectives he was ready to leave soon after arriving, but he was stranded.
He'd gotten dropped off at Corey's house, so he needed a ride back home.
I just wanted that ride back to Cape Coral. And I'm like, hey, let's have fun. Let's go ahead and let's hit it back to Cape Coral. Let's party.
When did you say that? With drugs, everything?
Yeah.
John, with his narcissistic personality, realized that Vanessa was battling an addiction, and he was using that to control her.
On the drive to Cape Coral, the couple stopped to get some fast food. But as the sun set and they finished their meal, they got into a tense argument in the restaurant parking lot.
John was upset with Vanessa about her drug use, and Vanessa was upset with John in regards to the way he had been treating her in the relationship.
She's cursing at me, telling me, you ain't doing this, you got that.
Eventually, John says he had enough.
I really just wanted her to feel what I felt. I don't know how else to say it. I just really, I pulled her hair, and it was just gonna be like a tussle.
Right.
But what I didn't notice that she had in the truck was a little small knife.
He said she tried to attack him.
He had to wrestle the knife away from her.
When she went for that, I hit her right on top of the head. And I was like, don't you dare do that. And then, honestly, I snapped.
He became completely overwhelmed with rage.
It was quick and it was angry.
You know how many times you snapped? More than once?
The problem with that story is as soon as he got the knife away from her, there was no threat anymore. You don't go back and plunge it 20 other more times in her chest after you take control of the knife.
And instead of getting help, he dumped her body on the side of a remote road where he thought that no one would be able to tie the crime back to him.
John blames his military experience for the extreme violence of his attack.
John is claiming he went into defense mode as though he was still in the military.
My training kicks in. Okay. All the emotions locked into robotic.
My Army training kicked in. It's not an excuse to kill someone. Besides that, John admitted he started the physical altercation. So in reality, Vanessa was the one defending herself when she grabbed that knife.
John Chapman, at the end of their investigation, was booked and charged for murder.
At trial in January of 2018, the jury agrees with investigators. John's murder of Vanessa can't be chalked up to self-defense.
In the end, his self-defense was not bought by the jury. They found him guilty of second-degree murder, and the judge sentenced him to 48 years in prison.
John was very lucky that he was not sentenced to death and that he wound up being convicted with second-degree murder. That was because in the state of Florida, if it's a crime of passion, you can get second-degree murder.
Vanessa Williams will never get the chance to see what her future might have been, all because of the rage of John Chapman.
Vanessa was trying to turn her life around and have a better future for herself and her children.
Vanessa may not have been the perfect person, but she was really doing her best and trying to get back to a good place.
John Chapman was deceiving to many, and unfortunately, he deceived Vanessa Williams into thinking he was a good and decent person, someone she could build a family with, someone she should have a relationship with. And unfortunately, it cost her life.
The disappearance of a beloved and beautiful mother ignites an investigation and a race against time.
It was out of her character to be missing, not going to work, not contacting family. They made up their own missing person flyers and they were out in the community handing out the flyers.
But as this mystery deepens, there are rumors of another side to this woman's life, and the secrets boiling just below the surface.
There was some talk about a love affair gone off the rails.
He became very jealous. He became very controlling. Usually those things erupt all over the place.
All of which will lead to the burning question: was this the cold-blooded murder of an innocent woman, or the vanishing act designed to pin a crime on an innocent man?
Did she cause her own disappearance? You don't have a body, you don't have a gun, and you don't have an eyewitness. We had to look at all possible outcomes.
It was a devastating blow to the community.
September 26, 2009. It's a warm fall morning deep inside the woods of Baltimore County, Maryland.
It's a very rural area where people live off the land, go hunting.
Bow hunters Matthew Pryor and Paul Johnson are up early to take advantage of game season.
You see that? Yeah. I got a shot, man. Go ahead. I got it. The deer ran further into the woods, and the hunters followed it. They were tracking him. The guy, look here. They're tracking this deer by the blood trail. It leads them down into some shrubbery. They went approximately 200 yards from where they had shot the deer, and one of the hunters walking through noticed something. One of the hunters saw something red, like in the brush. What is that? When he looked down, he saw it was a sneaker. When he looked closer, he saw that there was a bone attached to that sneaker. Oh my God, is that a body? Holy jeez. Oh man. He realized it was human remains. It was a full skeleton that he was seeing. You need to call 911. Hunters, of course, immediately called the police.
Within minutes, police have arrived and cordoned off the area. Questions about the remains are already swirling.
So whose remains were these, and how had this person ended up in a remote wooded area? And had this person died of natural causes or murder?
The answer to those questions would eventually lead investigators to a baffling case and to the story of a beautiful young woman who had the world at her feet.
This is one of those stories that you can never forget, and it all begins with a woman named Mia Nichols.
For Mia Nichols, life began in Bridgetown, New Jersey in 1970.
She came from a close family where she was raised by both parents who were there for her.
She had a large, loving family.
Miss Nichols was very attractive. She was petite. She wore a size 2, so she was very tiny. She was only barely over 5 foot tall.
But what Mia lacked in stature, she made up for in heart.
By all accounts, she was an individual who cared about the people around her.
Very friendly, very vibrant, just a good spirit.
It was that same joyful spirit and resolute upbringing that helped Mia weather an unexpected turn during her teens.
Mia became pregnant when she was 17 and gave birth to a daughter named Nora in 1988.
While others might have crumbled under such pressures, Mia was able to get her high school diploma and be a good mother at the same time.
In the late 90s, Mia resettled in Baltimore, Maryland, where her brother Charles later followed.
Yep, I'll put that down in your file.
There she found employment that would provide a measure of financial stability for her and her young daughter.
She worked for an organization that helped transition prisoners from jail to the public. She was a secretary there.
Hey, Mia. There's a list of the lieutenants.
Oh, okay, perfect. I'll follow them right away.
Thank you. And Mia, you're doing an excellent job.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
At work, Mia earned a reputation as a dedicated employee with a passion for social justice.
She was an exceptional employee. She cared deeply for the people that transitioned.
Apples.
With Mia's career taking off, her private life didn't lag far behind.
While Mia was living in Baltimore, she met and she fell in love with a man named Keith Roberts. Ultimately, they married, and their union led to the birth of 2 sons.
She adored her children.
You gonna have a good day? Oh, yeah.
She had very deep love for her children. I know that she cared deeply about who they were and who they associated with.
The wellspring of love that Mia felt for her teenage daughter and 2 young sons might have been unending, but those same strong feelings for her husband Keith dried up in 2003.
Their relationship ended in divorce, but they amicably agreed to share custody of the boys.
The father of Mia Nichols' children was still part of their life. He loved the children very, very much.
Single again, Mia began taking steps to ensure she could provide the best possible future for her children.
She was working, and simultaneously she was trying to better herself by going to school and receiving an advanced degree.
While this new intellectual environment was exciting for Mia, she had no way of knowing that a chance meeting one day in 2007 would spark another kind of passion.
Excuse me, can you tell me how to get to the financial aid office?
Yeah, I mean, I could just walk you there myself. What's your name?
Mia.
Hey, Tyrone Webb. This way.
He was attending a community college and majoring in electronics.
He wanted to get an education and go into business. That was his goals.
So what you studying?
Electronics. Actually, I've been pretty good at fixing stuff with my hands my whole life.
Oh, wish I could say the same.
Mr. Webb was large. He was very muscular, and he had really piercing eyes. There was a approximately 10-year difference in their ages, and despite that, there seemed to have been an immediate chemistry between them.
That chemistry soon ignited a romance, one that burned brightest off campus.
They would come home and spend the night together.
She fell hopelessly in love with him.
A few months after Mia and Tyrone began dating, they took a big step and moved in together.
They had a beautiful apartment in an old home. It's a part of northwest Baltimore.
And Mia was a very nurturing person. She was trying to incorporate Tyrone into that family by making him a father figure to her kids.
Together, Tyrone and Mia decided she would take on the role of breadwinner, and Tyrone would help raise the kids while completing his studies.
How are you?
I'm pretty good. How's your day?
I'm so tired.
She was willing to work and take care of the family and pay the bills.
I have an idea.
What's that?
Why don't we go away for the weekend?
Just me and you?
Just me and you.
By the fall of 2008, it looked like this happy couple had nowhere to go but up.
Everything was reportedly great between the two of them. It was a pretty ordinary, loving relationship.
So no one could have imagined the dark shadow that was about to descend on their lives, forcing everyone to wonder whether Mia Nichols was really the devoted mother and loving girlfriend she appeared to be. It was possible that she was keeping secrets from Tyrone and everyone else. Everyone who knew Mia Nichols and Tyrone Webb said they were an unstoppable couple.
Mia was a very hard worker. She would go to work, she would come home. If she had a class, she would go to a class. But otherwise, her life revolved around Tyrone Webb and around her children.
They were going to grow this relationship and perhaps get married.
But on October 29th, 2008, the couple's life together takes a shocking turn when Mia's brother Charles receives a troubling call from Tyrone.
Hello?
Hey, Charles.
It's Tyrone, man. Listen, have you heard from Mia?
No, I mean, what's going on? I mean, I hadn't
Heard from her in a while?
No, I haven't seen her.
Tyrone Webb asked him if Mia had gone to his house and maybe spent the night. And Keith said no, he hadn't seen her or talked to her. This isn't like her, man.
Just relax. Call the police and file a missing persons report, okay? Okay, I'll do that.
At that point in time, call the police and report her missing.
Later that day, Baltimore police arrive at Tyrone and Mia's home to take his statement.
Tyrone, when is the last time you saw Mia?
I hadn't really seen her since 8 a.m. yesterday when she left for work. I got home from school, that afternoon. Tyrone Webb described that he spoke with her a few times throughout the day and that he texted her about going out, and that was the last contact.
She told him she was out with her friend.
She actually said that she was going to be
her friend Kim gave a couple drinks since the kids were going to be with their father. So I didn't really think anything of it. I just went to bed.
Tyrone says nothing seemed out of the ordinary until he woke up the next morning and discovered Mia hadn't come home.
Tyrone said she wasn't answering her cell phone, and apparently she had not shown up for work.
Now, is there anywhere else you think she could be? People she could be with?
I mean, I called Mia's brother Charles, but he didn't seem to know where she was either. He actually told me I should call you guys.
Okay, what type of car does Mia drive?
Red Nissan, Sentra. You guys, please find her.
While Tyrone's obviously upset, detectives advise him not to automatically assume the worst.
With a lot of missing persons cases, the people have actually left on their own accord for personal reasons. They usually end up returning.
She'll probably turn up on her own. We'll take a look into it and let you know what we find out.
After speaking with Tyrone, detectives head to the home of Mia's brother Charles, who confirms what Tyrone told them.
I mean, it's the thing that you guys showed up because, I mean, it's not like my sister.
It was out of her character to be missing, not going to work, not contacting family.
She was a good mother, and that was one of the focal points when she became missing, that she would never leave her children behind, her two sons, her youngest sons.
While Charles doesn't believe Mia would simply leave town without telling anyone, detectives' interview with Mia's friend, Kim Anderson, raises some questions.
So understanding that you and Mia got together last night?
What? No.
Oh, really? So she didn't show?
No, we never made plans to meet up. I haven't seen Mia in about a year or so. Naturally, when a person goes missing, and the last person that she was supposedly with says that she never saw her, well, your radar goes up. So, was Kim lying to cover up something that happened between them? Could she have been involved in Mia's disappearance?
But when detectives ask Kim if she had any conflicts with Mia, she adamantly denies it.
So no issues?
No, Mia's a great person.
Kimberly was very upset to learn that Mia was missing. She, again, described their relationship as a work relationship that grew into a friendship, a very good friendship.
After checking out Kim's alibi for the night that Mia disappeared, detectives decide to send her home.
Kim's whereabouts were fully accounted for, so they believed that she was telling the truth about her and Mia.
But if that's the case, why had Tyrone told police that Mia and Kim were supposed to meet?
This raised a lot of questions. Could Tyrone have been lying? And if so, why? Or could Mia have been lying to Tyrone to cover up what she was really doing?
As the day comes to an end, detectives are no closer to answering those questions. But soon, evidence will surface that shows Mia was in close contact with a long list of men with disturbing criminal pasts, raising far more troubling questions about what might have happened to this missing woman.
Perhaps Mia had gone missing on her own accord and met up with somebody, and that person had killed her.
It's been 24 hours since Tyrone Webb reported his 37-year-old girlfriend and mother of three, Mia Nichols, missing on October 29, 2008. Tyrone told Baltimore police that Mia was supposed to be out with a friend named Kim Anderson.
Police investigated and, of course, contacted Kim. She reported to them that she had not seen or talked to Mia Nichols since June or July of 2007.
To police, it's obvious that someone isn't telling the truth. But who?
Kim Anderson was in the clear with her alibi, so this leaves Tyrone and Mia. Could have Mia been lying to cover up something she was doing, or could have Tyrone made up this whole story to cover his role in her disappearance?
Looking for answers, detectives arrange an interview with Tyrone Webb at their station.
They confront him with what Kim Anderson told them.
So Tyrone talked to Kim. She said she hadn't seen Mia in over a year.
I mean, all I know is what Mia told me.
So do you have any idea why she would lie about that?
No, not at all. When we asked him about their relationship, he described it as a typical relationship, a great relationship.
So what were you doing on the night of October 28th, the night Mia disappeared?
Like I said, during the day, I was in school. That evening, I just was home by myself. Tyrone Webb was adamant that he last saw Mia Nichols at 8 o'clock that morning going to work, and that His last contact with her was via text message.
Frankly, detectives don't know whether to believe Tyrone or not. He had no confirmable alibi. But on the other hand, there was no evidence to implicate him or anyone else in this crime. They had to let him go.
With no solid leads on Mia's whereabouts, investigators expand their search.
At this point in time, there's a full court press. We contacted the National Center of Missing Children, and we were able to get another adult missing person flyer from them. And we were just flooding the entire Baltimore area on foot, as well as TV, trying to locate or find out where Mia was.
During the time that Mia went missing, the family never forgot. The family was always on the search for Mia. They did cookouts to raise money for awareness and try to search for her.
They assisted us in press conferences, and then giving out flyers and, pleading to the community that if you have any information as to her whereabouts, please contact the police, please contact the family. She was their world.
Leading the family search for Mia is Tyrone Webb.
We went on numerous searches with the family to look for her and passed out flyers, put posters up, things of all that.
While Mia's loved ones continue the hunt, detectives pour through the missing mother's financial records for proof of life.
Hey, come check this out. I think I found something.
What is it? We did notice that there was some activity on her bank account. There was one deposit, which was her direct deposit for her paycheck. And there was a withdrawal.
For investigators, it's their first positive sign that Mia might still be alive.
Take this, call the bank, see if they can pinpoint exactly where it took place at.
All right, I got it.
All right, thanks.
But when police track down the lead, the information isn't encouraging.
The investigation revealed that withdrawal was a monthly, reoccurring transaction to pay her phone bill.
Investigators' concerns are only compounded when they discover that Mia's job placed her in constant contact with recently paroled felons.
One of the main things the VOA does is they provide halfway housing for people charged in the federal crime system. She did work in this environment where there were men who were charged with serious crimes.
And when police speak to Mia's supervisor, Tony Williams, he informs them that one of the residents of the VOA halfway house had recently developed a crush on Mia.
I'd say this guy was pretty enamored with Mia, yeah. Oh, yeah? Absolutely. One of these persons who was out of pretrial release had contact with her, sent her messages, pursuing her. But Mia was professional. She told him to cut it out. She was respectful. That sort of thing happens from time to time.
Williams tells police the man's name is Michael Thomas, and Thomas's criminal record instantly raises some serious red flags.
Michael had been convicted of a sex crime.
So, of course, this information must have immediately caught the attention of investigators. You have a convicted sex offender who had allegedly been interested in Mia, and she now has disappeared. So is this a coincidence or not?
The following morning, detectives question Michael Thomas at the halfway house where he's currently living.
You Michael? Yeah. Mind if we ask you a few questions? Go ahead.
Are you aware that Mia Nichols is missing?
Well, yeah, everybody's been talking about it at the house.
They really laid into him and pushed him for answers.
We heard you've been sending her texts. So? You like her? She's a nice lady.
You see, the thing is, we know about your past.
Look, Miss Nichols has been nothing but nice to me. I've never shown her anything but respect.
Michael didn't deny being attracted to her, but emphasized how truly grateful he was for her kindness towards him. Like everyone else, he said she was a person you couldn't help but like. He swore he would never do anything to hurt her.
Of course, given this man's long criminal history, detectives can't take Michael's word alone.
This guy had been in the system. He knew what to say to work law enforcement, but Michael never cracked under questioning.
Okay. We'll be seeing you.
They did vet him, and that ended. He had a solid alibi. So now, detectives have to go back and comb through the entire list of men that Mia had been in contact with, possible suspects. This was a huge job.
But before detectives dig too deeply, a stunning revelation is about to rock the investigation. One that suggests Mia Nichols may well have been a very scared woman.
Mia Nichols was in fear for her life.
31st, 2008. 48 hours after Mia Nichols was reported missing by her live-in boyfriend, Tyrone Webb, Baltimore detectives still don't know what to make of the mother of three's unexplained disappearance.
Initially, when Miss Nichols disappeared, law enforcement thought there was a possibility she may have left of her own accord.
We were comparing all of the information that we gathered from coworkers, from family, from friends.
So, how long have you and Mia been working together?
About 3 years.
Anything unusual happened the day she disappeared?
Yes.
On the day of her disappearance at work, Mia Nichols received a phone call that was extremely loud.
Some of her coworkers could hear yelling through the phone.
According to her coworkers, when Mia hung up the phone, she was shaking.
She was visibly upset and nearly in tears. And when the coworker asked her, was she okay, Mia told her that Tyrone told me not to come home. He said, I better not come home.
Mia's colleagues say this wasn't the first time Tyrone had reduced their friend to tears.
Her coworkers reported to us and had told the police that at times she would have long conversations with Mr. Webb at work, at the conclusion of which she would be crying and very distraught.
It became obvious to Mia and to coworkers who she confided in that Tyrone Webb began to become quite jealous, quite controlling over Mia's life. A great source of this apparently was Mia being in contact with the father of her 8-year-old son. This apparently led to some arguments.
I can't just stop talking to him. It doesn't work that way. We share custody of the kids.
Mia was very outgoing. She was very friendly. Many of her co-workers would want to meet up with her and go out with her after work. That changed. Mia was no longer as free to go out as she had been in the past. Tyrone Webb was very jealous of where she was and who she was with at all times.
But Mia's colleagues claim their coworker and friend was no pushover.
Mia Nichols would often tell coworkers that she was unhappy in her relationship with Tyrone Webb and that she had plans on leaving him.
In light of this new information, police have to wonder if Mia's disappearance was a coincidence or not.
Perhaps she's run off to get away from Mr. Webb. It's a difference between being missing and trying to hide out for your own safety.
The lack of activity on her bank accounts may not have been a sign that she was incapacitated, but rather a deliberate effort on her part to make her disappearance as complete as possible.
While police check area women's shelters for any signs of Mia, investigators run a background check on Tyrone Webb.
He has several arrests, but most of his arrests was mainly minor drug offenses.
While nothing in Tyrone's records suggests a history of actual violence, his rap sheet, coupled with the accounts of Mia's coworkers, prompts investigators to take a harder look at Tyrone as a suspect.
Detectives subpoenaed the couple's cell phone records and start pouring through the data. They immediately noticed something odd.
After she was reported missing, Tyrone Webb made several phone calls to her cell phone. Every time that he called to leave a message for her, hey, where are you? No one can find you. Every time that he called her cell phone, both phones would hit off the same cell towers.
It put Tyrone Webb's cell phone and Mia Nichols' cell phone in the same place.
The dubious cell phone records give investigators probable cause to obtain a search warrant for Tyrone and Mia's residence.
No one was present at the apartment. No one. Mia's children were staying with a relative, and we just did not know where Tyrone was. We found nothing out of place. A relatively neat, clean apartment. Nothing stood out of place. Nothing jumped at us like, wait a minute, something happened here.
They did not find any blood, any saliva, anything which would indicate that there had been a struggle or that, in fact, a murder had been committed.
Though the search of Tyrone and Mia's apartment yielded no physical signs of foul play, it did produce one item that piqued investigators' interest.
They recovered a gun box, which formerly had housed a .45 caliber semi-automatic handgun, but no handgun was recovered.
With his multiple drug-related convictions, Tyrone Webb was not allowed to own or carry a handgun.
So the only logical question will be now is, since the box is empty, where's the gun?
That evening, investigators track Tyrone down and bring him to the station. where they confront him about the missing weapon.
So where's your 45? It's gone. I mean, I must have given it away or sold it. Or, I mean, I'm not really sure. I mean, it's been a long time.
Tyrone Webb, at that particular point, couldn't recall. I believe he said he may have sold it. He couldn't remember who he sold it to, but he no longer had that weapon.
Once again, police question him, but they have no choice but to let him go.
He was our suspect. He was the guy that we were focused on. So at that point in time, we placed him under surveillance, extensive surveillance.
But no sooner have they started keeping tabs on Tyrone Webb, investigators find themselves plunged into a secret world of sex, lies, and quite possibly murder.
She was the other woman. Perhaps she wanted Miss Nichols out of the picture. Her life.
Fatal Attraction, all new, Monday at 9 on TV1.
Though Baltimore police have their suspicions about Mia Nichols' boyfriend, Tyrone Webb, detectives have yet to find anything that definitively links him to her mysterious disappearance.
You don't have a body, you don't have a gun, and you don't have an eyewitness.
Police are running out of ideas, so they decide to set up a surveillance operation on Tyrone Webb.
A few weeks into the operation, investigators get a surprising lead.
See you later.
Yeah. The woman by the name of LaVivian moved in 3 weeks after Mia Nichols had gone missing.
For investigators, this new leading lady in Tyrone's life raises an immediate red flag.
You don't have to be a detective to realize it's suspicious that a woman moves in 3 weeks after your girlfriend goes missing.
Detectives waste no time approaching LaVivian for an interview.
Can you follow us to the station?
Okay.
When we made contact with LaVivian, our first initial contact, it was just the information gathering. She wasn't extremely forthcoming with a lot of information.
Look, I'm not gonna beat around the bush. You moved in with Tyrone Webb. Must be some sort of relationship between you two.
Eventually, LaVivian admits she and Tyrone do have a history together, but she refuses to label herself as his girlfriend.
Tyrone met LaVivian at Baltimore City Community College. They were both students at the time. Apparently, they began a very sexual relationship.
She did advise us that she knew that Tyrone had a girlfriend, and while Mia was at work, she would be at their apartment smoking marijuana, watching TV, and engaging in sexual activity.
Was Mia aware of this history?
Why does that matter?
It matters because Mia's missing. And then not 3 weeks after, you move in with Tyrone Webb. You wouldn't have done that unless you knew she wasn't coming back.
We believe that she knew more information than she let on.
That's when LaVivian makes a jaw-dropping revelation.
I moved in because I found out I was pregnant.
It was in fact Tyrone Webb's child.
LaVivian's statement brings up an entirely new possibility about what happened to Mia.
Perhaps LaVivian had something to do with Miss Nichols coming up missing because she was the other woman, and she was now pregnant by Mr. Webb.
She might have been unhappy with the fact that he was still living with Miss Nichols, and she might have wanted to more or less move in and take her place.
That might explain why Tyrone says that he has no idea what happened to the .45 caliber. Maybe she took it without his knowledge.
But LaVivian denies she had anything to do with Mia's disappearance and claims the timeline surrounding her pregnancy proves it.
LaVivian told investigators that she realized she was pregnant after Mia Nichols was reported missing.
LaVivian also tells police that before she found out she was pregnant, she was more than happy being Tyrone's woman on the side.
LaVivian was just comfortable being the number 2 girlfriend.
So what do you think happened to Mia Nichols?
I don't know.
Are you protecting Tyrone? Because if you know something and you're not telling us, we can charge you as an accessory.
Under pressure, LaVivian admits she's also concerned that Tyrone may have had a hand in Mia's disappearance.
LaVivian told police that she was suspicious of Tyrone Webb after Mia Nichols was reported missing because she noticed that the comforter that Tyrone had was missing.
When she asked Tyrone, where's the comforter, he said, oh, it got dirty. I got rid of it.
Though LaVivian's story is compelling, detectives continue to look at her with a skeptical eye.
They knew that LaVivian might be telling the truth, or she could be covering for her own role in the crime.
But with still no sign of Mia and no body, the case comes to a grinding halt. Weeks turn to months without a single new lead.
There were concerns by Miss Nichols' family that the case would never be solved.
Then, on September 26, 2009, there's a startling development.
11 months to the day that Mia Nichols was reported missing, two hunters were hunting in Baltimore County, less than 4 to 5 miles from where Mia actually lived. They were hunting deer, and they stumbled upon some remains, human remains. Baltimore County Police responded to the scene, and once the uniformed officers arrived on the scene, they contacted their homicide unit. They believed it was a female.
Although the body is in an advanced state of decomposition, investigators at the scene soon find a clue to her identity.
Among the personal effects found on the remains were a personal planner.
Inside the wet, muddy notebook, county detectives make out a name.
The name on the page was Mia Nichols. They were able to get her dental records compared to the remains and got a positive identification that the body was in fact Mia Nichols.
For all involved, it's a deeply tragic turn of events.
This was devastating to the family. They had hopes that she would be found alive, and this was their deepest fear realized.
Everybody loved her. Everybody come in contact with spoke very highly of Mia Nichols, and once they found out what happened to Mia Nichols, they were hurt.
Now that Mia's remains have been recovered, Baltimore City and County Police agree to coordinate their efforts. The following day, Mia's autopsy is completed.
It was determined that the cause of death was 2 single gunshot wounds to the back of the skull.
They found another slug within the chest cavity.
Baltimore County ballistics experts also examined projectiles recovered from underneath Mia's body.
These projectiles were discovered to be .45 caliber bullets.
For investigators, the evidence seemed to strongly implicate one man, Mia's boyfriend, Tyrone Webb.
They had searched their apartment, and they knew that a .45 caliber weapon was missing. Ballistic reports showed that the same caliber weapon was used to kill Mia.
Given the couple's rocky history and alleged instances of violence, it was investigators' belief that Tyrone had acted alone, and that his lover, LaVivian, was not involved. At that point in time, we were able to get an arrest warrant charging Tyrone Webb with first-degree murder.
On September 29, 2009, police arrest Tyrone without incident at his mother's home in Baltimore.
Tyrone Webb was charged with murder in the first degree and use of a handgun in the commission of a crime of violence.
But even now in custody, Tyrone Webb insists he had nothing to do with Mia's murder.
You're here because I have a warrant for your arrest charging you with murdering Mia Nichols. And there's a lot of evidence to support that.
But when detectives show Tyrone the evidence they have against him, he appears puzzled.
This is definitely pretty good.
Could Tyrone's claims of innocence be true? As this case moves to trial, a new witness is about to step into the spotlight.
What the witness told authorities was astonishing.
After discovering the decomposing body of Mia Nichols, police in Baltimore, Maryland have charged Mia's live-in boyfriend, Tyrone Webb, with her murder.
It was an example of fantastic police work. We just didn't quit.
While prosecutors prepare for the trial, detectives get what looks like a coup for the case.
A cooperating witness who had happened to be housed in the Baltimore County Detention Center with Tyrone Webb reached out to law enforcement through his attorney and told them he had information regarding the death of Mia Nichols.
During a jailhouse interview, the inmate, Bobby Hoffman, claims that while awaiting trial, Tyrone Webb confessed to him how and why he killed Mia Nichols.
He says that Tyrone wanted to keep his girlfriend a secret and that he suspected that Mia Nichols knew about it. At the same time, he didn't want Mia Nichols to leave because Mia Nichols was basically paying for everything and he was living there.
Step by step, Bobby Hoffman walks police through the crime.
From my understanding, they got into a fight in the bedroom. Got kind of bad, so he drew on her. Shot her right there. The state's theory was that Tyrone took her in his car into Baltimore County and shot her several times in the woods.
But the witness gave a statement to the authorities telling them that, in fact, Mia Nichols had been killed right in her own apartment on West Morris Park Road in Baltimore City.
Though it differs slightly from the state's theory about how the crime went down, Bobby Hoffman's statement seems credible, namely because it corroborates information about Tyrone's pregnant lover, LaVivian Jefferson, that detectives never made public.
LaVivian noticed that the comforter that Tyrone had was missing. The cooperating witness told authorities that that's where Mia Nichols was wrapped in when Tyrone took her body and dumped it in the woods.
Bak abi sürekli denk gez buna. Bir de adam net yer atıyor abi adam. Nihat abi bu hesap oyun bayan açıldı. 10 izlemişti açıldı. Dediler bu adam
Alright, Bobby. We'll be talking to you.
On January 23rd, 2012, more than 3 years after Mia's murder, Tyrone Webb's trial begins in a Baltimore City courtroom. And while the prosecution's case is largely circumstantial, the testimony of star witness and jailhouse informant Bobby Hoffman rivets the courtroom.
The cooperating witness kind of put all the pieces together for everybody.
The picture Bobby paints of Tyrone is that of an abusive and controlling boyfriend who wanted to have his cake and eat it too.
Once Mia Nichols found out about the other woman, she did want out the relationship, but Tyrone Webb was very possessive, didn't want Mia Nichols living a life without him, even though he was living a life without her. It was the state's position during the trial that Tyrone Webb was a controlling, violent boyfriend, and he killed me. He killed me because she was going to leave him.
Tyrone took out his gun, shot her in the chest. Mia Nichols was stooped over, was gasping for air, and then Tyrone walked over to her and shot her twice.
Bobby Hoffman's testimony is indeed powerful, but Tyrone's defense team questions the validity of his statement and his credibility as a witness.
There's no testimony from correctional officers that put them together. Nobody corroborated any friendship or any relationship between the two of them.
Tyrone Webb's defense believed that the witness, the informant that came forward all of a sudden, was less than credible because he himself was in jail. He himself was facing charges and could possibly get some sort of benefit by coming forward. He was believing that he may have gotten his hands on Tyrone's documents.
Did he receive a benefit? Maybe. He made a deal that there would be a guideline sentence. At the end of his testimony, he was asked, "Why are you cooperating?" And he turned to the jury and he said, "Because it's the right thing to do."
In addition to Bobby Hoffman's testimony, the state submits Tyrone and Mia's cell phone records as evidence, which seems to further implicate Tyrone in her murder.
The cell phone information that we put on for the jury was extremely damning to the defendant.
The cell tower and the cell phone information pointed to him because it appeared that, without a doubt, Mia's cell phone and his cell phone were traveling together. We're talking about areas of Baltimore and the surrounding areas miles away from where she was found and from where they lived in various locations. That is totally impossible if she was missing.
Finally, on January 30th, 2012, The court adjourns for deliberation. 2 hours later, the jury returns with a verdict.
Tyrone was convicted of murder in the first degree, use of a handgun during the commission of a crime of violence, and transport of a handgun. Judge Young sentenced Tyrone Webb to life for murder in first degree, plus 20 years for the use of a handgun during the commission of a crime of violence.
It was obvious that the family was still suffering from her loss, but I found some joy in that. We were able to get justice for the family.
That sense of justice, though, will always pale in comparison to what was lost. All because one selfish man couldn't let go.
It was a devastating blow to lose her. And not just a blow to the family, but to the community. Because she was somebody who had the potential to do a great amount of good. And that she would be greatly missed.
They were two people from different sides of the tracks who fell madly in love.
There was just this chemistry between them that neither of them could ignore. He seemed really protective of her.
Together, their potential seemed limitless.
She was a straight-A student, really could have gone to any college she wanted to, and after a traumatic upbringing, he was finally on the right path.
But on a cold winter night, their romance was snuffed out in horrific fashion.
We hear raised voices. Bitch, 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 bitch. At least 4 times. So there's an altercation going on in that van.
There was a visceral reaction that something like this happened to someone with so much promise. The evidence started pointing in ways that shocked even the police.
A series of surprising dead ends and shocking revelations would leave police struggling to understand what really happened.
There have been rumors that have floated around that it was something sexual, and it illustrates this pattern that something's off with him.
He arrives, he is upset, saying, I'm probably going to prison tonight.
This completely shattered both our lives. There's all this pain that is unending.
1 a.m., January 13th, 2009. A snowstorm is swirling in Ypsilanti, Michigan, a blue-collar community a couple miles east of the college town of Ann Arbor, Michigan.
It was a very heavy snowfall. There was a heavy snow that night.
Emergency dispatchers have been bombarded with reports of traffic accidents. But the call that just came in from resident Anthony Thompson has nothing to do with the inclement weather.
Ambulance fire emergency, what's your address?
I'm on Congress. I'm just driving down the street going home, and there's a lady laying here, and her head is busted open.
The caller could see that she was covered in blood.
In a matter of minutes, Ypsilanti police officers Robert Murphy and Brooke Mullender arrive on the scene.
We immediately went up to the victim, tried to assess her needs. The victim couldn't talk. She was kind of making some noises.
I could see the injury to her forehead. The trauma was severe.
She had exposed brain matter.
Our initial thoughts were that she had suffered a gunshot wound to the head.
Working to dispatch? I need an ambulance right away. The park.
Myself and the other officer kind of grabbed her hand, but just talked to her to give her some kind of feeling of safety.
Help is on the way.
She was still conscious, but again, she couldn't communicate verbally.
Not only is the woman unable to communicate, she apparently has no license or identification.
There wasn't a wallet or a purse with an ID, so at this time, she was a Jane Doe to us.
At 1:20 a.m., EMTs arrive and rush the unidentified woman to the hospital. With the snowstorm intensifying, Ypsilanti police must work quick to document the scene.
If we didn't immediately try to get photos with the evidence, we were going to lose it.
With no sign of a murder weapon or shell casings left behind, police brainstorm about a possible motive for the crime.
We did not see a purse or a wallet or any type of phone, so it did cross our mind that it could be a robbery.
That theory gains traction when Officer Mullender spots something in the snow a few feet from where the body was initially discovered.
Hey guys, come here, look at this. There's a set of footprints that lead right here to where the body was lying. And then there's just one set that leads out of here to the recreational park.
Somebody was definitely in a hurry to get out of here.
You could see where they were almost like sliding, that the person was moving quick.
As officers follow the tracks into the park, they make another discovery.
We found a set of blue Converse high-top tennis shoes, large, size 10, so a man's.
And the unusual skid mark pattern in the footprints suggests another theory about the individual who'd been wearing them.
Whoever was wearing them had slid their foot in, so it would be easy to drag it as you're leaving. It's believed suspect had actually run out of the shoes, running away from the scene.
The footsteps continued, and there were toe prints in the snow.
Investigators follow the bare footprints, which dead end right in front of a residence about a block west of the park.
We had reason to believe that the suspect had went into that house and could still be in that home.
He could be in there. Suspect was put armed and dangerous. You're requesting immediate backup.
After radioing for backup, a team of officers arrives and prepares to move in. But what would they find inside?
This was a real life or death situation. They didn't know what they were going to walk into.
On a cold January night in 2009, police in the Detroit suburb of Ypsilanti, Michigan, are investigating a bizarre and gruesome crime.
There was a snowstorm that night, and police were probably expecting a few accidents. But what they weren't expecting to find was an unidentified woman gravely injured, lying in the snow just outside of one of the city's parks. Based on the extent of her injuries, we believe that it was a gunshot wound to her forehead.
After discovering a pair of sneakers, police follow a trail of footprints approximately 200 yards to a house on Congress Street, where a team of officers prepares to descend on a potential murder suspect.
They had reason to believe that an armed man may be possibly hiding outside a home after he violently attacked a woman outside of a local bar.
But as officers enter the house and cautiously move from room to room, it becomes clear there's no one else inside.
We cleared the house and we called inside.
The house was empty. The suspect was not there.
Standing outside, police wonder where this mystery man could be and what connection he had to the attack on the unidentified young woman. As they ponder this question, a young man emerges from the shadows.
Hey, I need to talk to someone right now.
A young man walks up to them and interrupts things. He's clearly upset and acting erratically.
Sir, stay right where you are and keep your hands where we can see them. This is an active police operation. My God, this is bad.
He said you guys are probably going to want to talk to me, because I saw some things.
He tells them, I have information that you probably would want to know about. Almost kind of braggadocious, very odd character.
Making it even stranger, he wasn't even dressed for the weather.
He's not wearing a coat or a lot of clothes, which is very suspicious dealing with any kind of Michigan weather.
Sergeant Robert Murphy escorts the young man to his patrol car and presses him for more information.
It's a natural assumption to think that the footsteps they'd been chasing belonged to this guy.
I had the back door open. I was standing outside. I had him sitting inside, and we were having a conversation. He was ramped up and confused.
What's your name, son? No, not until you tell me who you just took away in that ambulance. His behavior continued to be very erratic. Officer Murphy wasn't sure if the kid was on drugs, or he was traumatized by something he saw, or maybe he was covering something up, or maybe a combination of all three.
Eventually, the young man calms down long enough to tell Officer Murphy his name.
I'm Jake. Jake Thomas. Okay, Jake. Why don't you tell us exactly what you know about what happened to that girl in the street? I think that might have been my girlfriend, Elena Jenkins.
Elena Jenkins and Jake Thomas were high school sweethearts from Ypsilanti. Elena remained a high school senior and Jake graduated, but they remained inseparable.
In fact, Jake tells police that he'd recently moved in with Elena and her mother.
They had their whole lives ahead of them until they were blindsided by this horrific attack.
According to Jake, it all started at Elena's house around 11 p.m., shortly after Elena's mother had gone to bed.
Elena decided that she needed to turn in because she had school in the morning, and Jake decided to stay up.
Jake explains that Elena's mother had allowed another friend to briefly stay with them. His name is Dominic Oyurinde.
And he had a girlfriend that he would frequently go out with, Anna Marie Bliss, who's also friends with Elena.
Dominic had been staying with us for a few days, and that was cool, all right? But when he came home last night, there was definitely something wrong.
He said Dominic arrived and he seemed to be upset.
Are you all right, man? Just give me the phone, man. I gotta call him. Dude, okay. Just calm down. He's gonna wake up Elena. She's sleeping upstairs. I'm gonna mess someone up. Dude, seriously, you gotta keep it down.
Jake explains to Officer Murphy that Dominic believed someone had stolen his cell phone.
Dominic was from Detroit, and he had a pretty rough background.
The man lost his parents at such a young age, and Dominic grew up as a foster child. You can imagine how tough that can be.
He was able to land a job, but he couldn't keep the job unless he had a cell phone. If he would have lost that, it would have been catastrophic.
Dominic had been homeless for a really long time, and it was very hard for him. And all he wanted in the world was just to be stable.
Jake states that Dominic eventually got in touch with Anna, who, like Elena, is a senior at a local high school. Dominic asks Anna to come get him so she can help him track down his phone.
What's wrong? It's gonna mess everything up for me, for us, everything.
Calm down. Anna, she was studying. She had homework to do. But she dropped everything to come see him. Because she loved him.
I'm gonna mess this thief up, man.
Don't be stupid. I'm coming over.
Jake tells Officer Murphy that at around 12:30 a.m., Anna List pulled up to Elena's home in her family's minivan, and that Dominic went outside to meet her.
From what he told me, he was looking out the window from inside of the house.
At some point, he hears Dominic shout at Anna, bitch, bitch, bitch. Then all of a sudden, he hears the sound of two doors slam. He sees Dominic and Anna walking away.
Anna was pretty upset, so it appeared that she was walking up the street to cool off.
He assumed Dominic was coming into the home, so he unlocks the door.
But to Jake's surprise, Dominic doesn't come inside. Instead, he hops in the driver's seat of the List family van.
Dominic immediately gets inside, makes a three-point turn, hits the curb, and flies down the street. He said it was at that point that he became very afraid. He runs upstairs, he wakes up his girlfriend.
Elena, you gotta wake up. Something's going on with Anna and Dominic. They got in this big fight, and Dominic just took her van.
Wait, where are they?
They're somewhere outside right now. Where are you going?
I'm gonna go find them.
As Elena leaves to search for her friend, Jake stays behind.
So I just kept waiting for her, but she never came back. You're telling me that's the last time you ever saw her? Yes, sir.
Because he hadn't heard from his girlfriend Elena in some time, he'd assumed that she'd had some kind of encounter with the enraged Dominic.
Jake heard the sirens going off and he runs outside to see what was going on.
That girl we found out in the snow. I think that's Elena.
On the surface, Jake's statement suggests his friend Dominic Oyurinde shot Elena after she tried to intervene in his and Anna's argument. But with no sign of Anna List or her family's minivan, police aren't so sure.
Police don't even know who Dominic or Anna are, or even if they're real people.
We were certainly suspicious because of the time of day, the footprints, and then he's the only one that's out there, and this may actually be the person who did it.
But before police can parse fact from fiction in Jake Thomas's statement, a vehicle rolls up to the scene, and a woman and her daughter emerge from the car. And what they have to say will reveal the victim's true identity and cast another dark cloud over an investigation that's already shrouded in mystery.
It was so shocking. I couldn't possibly even comprehend the situation fully at that point.
Police in Ypsilanti, Michigan are questioning Jake Thomas in the shooting of an unidentified young woman.
Jake believes that Elena was shot when she tried to break up a fight between Dominic and Anna.
But before police can make full sense of Jake's claims, the interview is interrupted when a vehicle pulls up to the scene and a woman jumps out.
What are you doing here?
Is this your house?
Yes, it is. What's going on?
The police start to explain that a woman had been brutally assaulted just down the street, and Jake believes that the victim could have been her daughter, Elena.
That can't be.
And why is that?
The woman turns out to be Michelle Jenkins, who's actually the mother of Elena Jenkins. She introduces the officer to Elena Jenkins, who is clearly alive and well.
After getting permission from Michelle, the officer proceeds to interview the teen.
What are you and your mom doing out here this minute?
We're looking for my friend Anna. Is the girl that you found her?
The officers tell Elena a description of the young lady taken to the hospital. Elena was pretty sure that it was her, so she gave the officers additional physical description of the young lady that matched.
She identified her as Anna List.
Anna List was born in Hong Kong on January 28, 1991. From the get-go, it was clear her life would be anything but ordinary.
Anna was born in Hong Kong, but her family lineage is from all around the world, which made her pretty ethnically diverse.
She came from all accounts, a very loving family, had a lot of support and a lot of direction to get her on the path she was headed.
When Anna was young, the family emigrated to Ann Arbor, Michigan. It was here that Anna truly started to blossom.
Anna was a straight-A student. She was a gifted musician. She had unbound potential.
While Anna's promise seemed limitless, her enormous heart may well have been her biggest gift of all.
She was always looking to help other people. She mentored other students in the area of music, and she was involved in several charities. She cared very much about her community.
And while working as a continuing education tutor during the summer of 2008, Anna met the young man that would change her life forever, Dominic Oyorende.
Hi, are you Anna?
Hi, yes I am. Nice to meet you.
Dominic was 20 years old and he had just returned to school to get his GED.
See, you do know
something.
Dominic was the kind of person that as soon as he entered a room, he was the only person anyone was looking at. He was the tall, black guy in a cutoff jacket on a skateboard.
He had these little isms, these Dominic-isms, like, if somebody said, I want it, Dominic would be like, I want it all, brand new socks and drawers. And it would always crack everybody up.
Though Anna and Dominic were immediately attracted to each other, their vastly different upbringings made them for an unlikely couple.
You had Anna from an affluent neighborhood in Ann Arbor.
She was coming from a nurtured environment.
Dominic, he grew up in the streets of Detroit.
His childhood was really traumatizing and emotionally stressful.
He had dropped out of school, and he was homeless on and off and unemployed.
Desperate to make a better life for himself, Dominic moved to Ann Arbor and enrolled in an adult education program.
He really wanted to avoid some of the unsteady elements from his life, so he'd often couch surf at friends' houses that would provide a more positive surrounding for him.
As for Anna, she saw Dominic's potential as both a boyfriend and a positive member of society.
Anna was tutoring him for his GED and also trying to convince him to apply to Washington Community College to perhaps better himself and further his life.
Something that the world might not have seen in Dominic, Anna did. Two of them ended up falling in love.
We can go to the skate park and then go to the movie.
So, I guess you're saying we have a date tonight?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it then. Because you're cute. That's it.
He was really happy about being with her, and he would say stuff like, she was out of his league and really awesome, and he seemed really protective of her.
In December of 2008, the couple's devotion to each other began to pay dividends.
He finally got a job, and he was really excited. He was working with a marketing street team, but needed a cell phone, and thankfully, Anna helped him with that. They were a couple working together for a better future.
Life at a local hospital is in fact Anna List. It's clear her and Dominic's future has been derailed.
Now, it seems likely that it was Anna, but they don't know who shot her and why.
Investigators are hopeful Elena Jenkins can shed light on Jake Thomas's initial statement. What she tells them largely corroborates Jake's story, but there are some key differences.
Jake's story was that he was inside the house when the argument between
Anna and Dominic started.
Jake's girlfriend tells the police she could tell that he had been outside because his hands were so cold.
Elena tells police she was also confused by Jake's behavior after he woke her up.
He does some very odd things. After he wakes his girlfriend up, he says that he stays in the house, doesn't follow her outside.
Elena states that with Jake unwilling to venture outside to search for Anna and Dominic, she woke her mother to assist her instead.
Why would he let his girlfriend just run out there and not go behind her and see what was going on? Did you actually see Dominic and Anna get into a fight earlier?
No, my boyfriend Jake just woke me up out of my sleep. I don't know.
Do you think Dominic would have hurt her?
No, I just don't think he'd be capable of something like that. No. Elena indicates that while Dominic is prone to outbursts, he worships the ground that Anna walks on.
And though Elena stops short of implicating her boyfriend in the attack on Anna, she does reveal Jake has his own share of demons.
Jake has bipolar disorder and very erratic behavior. I don't know, somehow that made him weirdly cut off to the world.
Like Anna, Jake Thomas had been raised by financially successful parents and spent part of his childhood in Asia. But according to Elena, that's where the comparisons between Jake and Anna ended.
I mean, there have been rumors that have floated around about Jake, and there was some kind of issue at one of his old schools involving a female Chinese student. A lot of the rumors illustrate this pattern that something's off about Jake.
Given this information and Jake's bizarre behavior when initially questioned by police, detectives wonder if he's trying to pin the attack against Anna on his pal Dominic.
So think about it. If Jake did have something to do with it, who better to blame than the homeless kid with a troubled past?
It seems that something else could have been going on here. I mean, maybe a love triangle, or maybe just Jake being obsessed with Anna.
Investigators bring Jake Thomas down to the station for further questioning. They also continue their search for Dominic Oyerinde. But a shocking claim from Anna List's father is about to alter the course of the entire investigation.
She's a young woman that seemed to have a soft spot for troubled eyes, and that caused some major problems.
These guys both have mental health issues. Got a question. Maybe it was one of these guys that did this to Anna.
Police in Ypsilanti, Michigan are trying to unravel the truth behind the shooting of an unknown victim they believe to be 17-year-old honor student Anna List. While Jake Thomas claims that his friend Dominic Oyerinde is responsible, police can't rule out that Jake may have committed the crime himself. But police will soon realize that not everything about the attack is cut and dried.
By the time detectives got back to the station with Jake, they received confirmation from the hospital that they were able to identify the victim from known medical records, and it was Anna List.
She had swelling of her brain. They had put her in a medically induced coma to try to see if she could heal at all.
Her injuries were very severe, even life-threatening.
But the attending physicians also give police some surprising information about Anna's injuries.
The neurosurgeon advised that the injury was not caused by a gunshot wound. It was actually caused by blunt force trauma.
Anna List was hit with some type of blunt object. They just don't know what.
This was definitely a game changer. Blunt force traumas are a little bit more intimate and brutal.
At first, they think that this is a robbery gone wrong. But now, they think that this is something personal.
With that in mind, detectives begin another interrogation of Jake Thomas.
There seemed to be some inconsistencies in Jake's story.
So you say you were inside the house when you heard this argument between Dominic and you?
That's right.
Well, your girlfriend Elena says that your hands were cold when you woke her up.
Yeah, well, I know what I saw, okay?
Are you sure there's something you're not telling us? I mean, was there something between you and Anna?
No. Look, I don't know what happened to her, but I heard them fighting outside in the van.
While Jake continues to assert his innocence, Anna List's father arrives at St. Joseph Mercy Hospital, having been informed of the attack on his daughter.
The victim's father was clearly distraught. I couldn't even imagine what he was going through at that time.
It's not a good time. We can do this later.
No. I need to do this now. I knew something like this was going to happen to Anna.
According to Anna's father, she was a loving and caring young woman, but very naive as well.
Anna's father informs police that when his daughter told him she was dating a young man from the rough and tumble Detroit streets, he wasn't sure what to make of it. But after meeting Dominic, he quickly accepted the relationship.
Dom didn't want, like, his friends who partied and were irresponsible ever around his girlfriend because he didn't want any of his friends to be a bad influence or danger to her at all.
But according to Anna's father, an event took place 1 month earlier that darkened his opinion of Dominic.
Dad, I need help.
Honey, what is it?
She called her parents. She's upset. She's screaming. Someone threw a brick in my car.
Who? Anna? Who?
Dominic.
The great relationship that they had started to go south. Dominic had a short fuse emotionally.
He was increasingly demanding of her time, jealous of her friendships, and threatened her physically.
According to Anna's father, the reason Dominic threw the brick through their family's van window was simple. Anna had decided to put an end to the relationship.
I love you, but I don't think this is going to work.
What's that supposed to mean?
They were fighting a lot, and she had tried to break up with him.
Dom, where are you going?
He gets really upset.
You know what? Go to hell.
Dom,
As he's exiting the car, he grabs a brick.
what are you doing?
And he threw a brick at her car window, shattering the window.
Dom!
She's immediately afraid. She's upset. She drives off to a strip mall to get away from the scene.
Anna's father tells police that while Anna initially reported the incident to police, she got cold feet when it came time to press charges. According to Mr. List, in the weeks that followed, he and Anna's mother tried to help their daughter move on, but Anna quickly drifted back to Dominic.
Anna, honey,
Yes?
we want to talk to you.
Sweetheart, we're worried about you.
It just pushed her closer to him.
Okay, you guys are totally overreacting.
Don't have to answer that, Anna.
That is fine. I'm gonna go take this outside. Dom? Yeah, I can totally come and get you.
At a certain point, her parents just finally gave up and realized they weren't going to win the fight.
With Mr. List's statement, investigators are increasingly anxious to speak with Dominic Oyerinde to see if he, not Jake Thomas, may be behind the crime.
So if what Jake is saying is true, Dominic is probably rolling around in the List family van, which is technically stolen. And if he's not the killer, he probably knows who is. It's more pressing than ever that authorities speak with Dominic Oyerinde.
That morning, police issue an APB for 20-year-old Dominic Oyerinde and the List family van. But as they try to determine whether or not Dominic was capable of committing such a violent crime, investigators are forced to ask some difficult questions. Questions that will leave the quiet community of Ann Arbor divided.
I don't think there's a real, true one answer of how to make sense of what happened.
Just hours after 17-year-old Anna List is found beaten to the brink of death in Ypsilanti, Michigan, police have questioned one possible suspect, Jake Thomas, and are on the hunt for another, Anna's missing boyfriend, Dominic Oyerinde.
They had reason to believe that Dominic had assaulted Anna that night.
At the very least, authorities believe Dominic is in possession of the List family minivan, the vehicle Anna had been driving just prior to being assaulted.
We knew that he was possibly in that vehicle. We had to be on the lookout for other police department agents for that vehicle.
As the search for the missing minivan continues, police begin questioning Dominic's friends about his possible whereabouts. Most of them express disbelief that he could be involved in such a heinous crime.
When I heard about the incident, I couldn't possibly have believed that was him.
I wouldn't portray him as a violent person. Dominic's a really fun-loving person.
But as investigators dig deeper, a more complex portrait of Dominic begins to emerge.
So what can you tell us about Dominic?
Dominic, he's a really great guy. He is,
Just what?
he's had a really hard time, you know?
I don't know exactly what his mental health diagnosis is, but I do know that he has mental problems from a lot of stuff that's happened to him. was going to lots of different therapists over the years. He was a pretty paranoid person. He had endured years of abuse while being raised in the foster care system. It can cause all kinds of fears of abandonment and really just a general lack of trust.
Friends and loved ones say the situation was so bad that Dominic had been known to take antipsychotics to control his demons. But when the pain became too much, Dominic sometimes added alcohol and recreational drugs to the mix.
I can imagine that a combination of anti-psych meds, recreational drugs, probably alcohol, that would be hard to control a level of sanity with that.
And some, like Dominic's ex-roommate Marie, say they had seen Dominic cross a terrifying line on at least one occasion.
I was in the bathtub, he was freaking out, and I was just like, I'm just gonna go deal with this. And there was all this calamity outside with him.
You're racist!
According to Marie, as she entered the living room to see what the commotion was about, Dominic confronted her about an ironic, politically charged piece of art a friend had made her.
I just had like this picture that one of my friends drew that had a swastika on it, and he was upset about that. And he was like, you're racist.
You mentioned you're racist.
It's nothing.
Why did you have to hear that?
Down. The artwork mocked swastikas and Nazis, but Dominic was messed up on drugs. He didn't see it that way. All he saw was rage, blind rage, against his roommate.
He freaked out. He actually tried to strangle me. I could see that he wasn't really himself. You just look, and there's someone else there.
This sounds like disassociation. In this mental state, a person isn't necessarily consciously aware of what's going on. It's sort of a survival mechanism for people who experience trauma, but it can also be very dangerous for those close to the person.
Luckily for Marie, Dominic finally snapped back to reality.
What the hell?
He was distracted because I wasn't wearing anything.
Put some clothes on.
And confused enough that he was like, this is weird, and left.
For investigators, Marie's statement, combined with the details of his earlier attack on Anna's family van, moves Dominic Oyorinde to the top of the suspect list.
While Jake Thomas behaved erratically and the story he told had some oddities about it, he really didn't have the same signs of violence that Dominic had in his past.
I think he cared about her, but Dominic is just a really fearful person, and all that stuff kind of coalesced.
He probably just blacked out like he did with Mia, but he didn't get back to reality.
If Dominic is as unbalanced as his friends believe, the need to find him is more pressing than ever. Thankfully, less than 24 hours later, police in Detroit spot a vehicle that matches the description of the stolen minivan. They run the plates and get a hit.
Two patrol officers had spotted the List family van and pulled it over.
Detroit police found the van, and it was being driven by Dominic.
Though Dominic is taken into custody without incident, when he's transferred to Ypsilanti police for questioning, the cooperation comes to a halt.
He chose to enforce his Miranda rights and decided not to make a statement.
Later that day, Dominic Oyorinde is charged with carjacking and assault with the intent to commit murder.
He was held on a $2 million cash bond.
It was a huge relief that he was off the street, but everybody was holding their breath for Anna.
While justice seems within reach, another development was about to rise after allegedly assaulting his girlfriend, Anna List, in a late-night rage. Dominic Oyorinde is behind bars in Ypsilanti, Michigan.
Dominic was charged with assault with the intent to commit murder.
With Anna still fighting for her life, support floods in from surrounding communities.
There were numerous people in prayers for Anna, hoping that she could perhaps make a miraculous recovery.
In these difficult days, one frequent visitor to Anna's hospital room is responding officer Brooke Mullender.
I would periodically go up to the hospital and try to check on her, see if she was having any kind of improvements.
But despite round-the-clock medical care, Anna List never recovers from her injuries.
We had learned that Anna was not going to be getting better.
She was declared brain dead at that point.
On January 19th, 2009, Anna's family makes the heart-wrenching choice to remove her from life support.
This was a very painful decision.
News of Anna's death brings an outpouring of grief from community members and law enforcement officers alike.
She was so smart. She had such a bright future. It's just such a tragically sad story.
With Anna's passing, prosecutors upped the charges against Dominic Oyorinde.
So now it goes from being assault to being a murder case.
While the prosecution prepares for trial, Ypsilanti police continue building their case against Dominic. They start with the potential murder weapon.
Anna's father told us he had tools in that van and was missing a hammer. And actually, he was able to describe the hammer, where he obtained it, and there were items, a sticker, that made it unique.
When temperatures rise unexpectedly in February and the snow begins to melt, detectives return to the scene of the crime to search for the missing hammer.
They actually found a claw-type hammer sticking out from what snow was left.
The hammer fits the description provided by Anna List's father.
Everything matched up. There's thousands of hammers out there, so it was a very important piece.
In addition to matching the description provided by Anna List's father, the hammer contains other critical evidence.
On the hammer, they could see there's blood.
Investigators send the hammer to the Michigan State Police Lab for processing, along with the shoes found in the snow the night of the attack. On October 27, 2009, the DNA analysis is complete.
It was Anna's blood on the hammer, and we know that this was the weapon that was used to attack Anna. The only question now was it Dominic that used it?
A closer look at the high-top sneakers found at the scene provides an answer to that question.
Shoes come back to having his DNA, her blood on them.
On March 8, 2010, in the Washtenaw County Courthouse, the trial of Dominic Oyorinde finally begins. In their opening statements, prosecutors portrayed Dominic as a violent young man, hell-bent on controlling every aspect of Anna List's life.
Anna had already tried to break away from one before. That time he acted violently to try to keep her in his grip. This time, things spiraled out of control.
Prosecutors argue that on the night of the crime, Anna arrived at Elena Jenkins' home around 12:30 and attempted to calm Dominic down about the loss of his cell phone.
What's wrong? What happened?
Somebody took my phone, okay?
Prosecutors claim that despite Anna's efforts to help Dominic, he became increasingly agitated with her.
Why'd you take so long to get?
Because it's snowing outside.
You can't drive faster?
No one knows exactly what the argument was over. I mean, she could have said, this is it. We're over once and for all.
You know, my family's right. We shouldn't be together.
Where are you going?
Prosecutors assert that after Anna exited the vehicle, Dominic followed her, grabbed a hammer from the rear of the vehicle, and chased after her on foot.
Where are you going? Slow down!
Stop!
Anna walks eastbound. The defendant walks eastbound with her. As they're walking eastbound, we have an ongoing argument. No, Dominic, leave me alone. No, you're going to do this for me. He's armed with a hammer. No, Dominic, I'm not. We're done. But that is just not acceptable to the defendant.
You're acting crazy!
Don't call me crazy! He struck her once in the back of the head, and then struck her again in front of the head.
Neither blow was strong enough to kill her.
The viciousness of the attack was shocking to most people in the courtroom. It made for a very, very strong case.
The defense did attempt to use Dominic's mental health issues to show that the murder wasn't premeditated in order to get the charges reduced. But it was tough for them to gain any traction.
On March 12, 2010, Dominic Oyorinde is found guilty of felony murder and carjacking. 26 days later, during the sentencing phase, Anna's father delivers an impassioned address to the court.
Dear Anna, for 17 years and 357 days, I told her stories. I taught her to swim and listened as she practiced violin. She created harmony. She embodied compassion. She was taken away with neither.
After listening to Anna's father, the judge sentences Dominic Oyorinde to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
It's a sentence well deserved.
I was satisfied that we did our part for Anna's family. At least that gives some kind of closure.
But no one touched by this tragedy will ever forget the heartbreaking story of Dominic Oyorinde and Anna List, two star-crossed lovers who fate brought together.
To be snuffed out in such a brutal way and in such a seemingly senseless way was very tragic for this community.
There were warning signs that the relationship was unhealthy. It's really important for people to take a hard, objective look at their relationships that they're in and just making sure that they're keeping themselves safe.
Cái mà anh còn đánh pháp sư anh trái đâu phải sẽ đào hết nha. Ủa sắt thô nó còn sao được. Xì lại là bố. Đầu hàng thôi em nhỉ. Xuống chơi một đấy mãi. Ồ, đợi cái nước ạ. Em chơi con đấy, em chơi con Nata. Không, con này em mới không gạo một bên, không phải tiếp tục. Bye bye. Không biết lại đúng không? Ừ. Vẫn hôm qua chơi rồi đấy. Ba cái sợn chơi hôm qua nay vẫn tính. Hôm qua ăn kèo rồi đây. Chị cũng anh ấy. Thôi được rồi. Có gì chấp à? Có gì chấp à? Đấy rồi anh cứ thấy kèo trên bắt đầu lại thôi đấy. Đâu. Kiểu đeo xu nó sao mà lên hơn được kèo má lắm. Đấy không hơn được anh. Làm sao mà hơn được? Hơn hết. Đấy. Cái phát ở đây rồi. Đấy. Đấy. Trong thì bắn cái mấy cái em chết. Ủa nhưng mà tôi đào sâu xuống toàn thấy sắt thô, bây giờ đồng thô hả? À tức là cái đấy là sẽ tạo ra ấy hả? Vãi không nói sớm là mất bao nhiêu công sức đào và đào. Tôi tưởng mấy cái đấy chỉ để chế tạo về đấy. Tôi đào xuống tới tận hang động của cái gì nhỉ? Đây dài tay làm sao mà lấy được. Toan rồi. Đẩy xíu. Đâu ha? Cầm qua đây thì chịu rồi. Em không có thể cầm qua đây mà. Yasu cũng khỏe mà ngoài ngồi ngắm. À không, tôi đang bảo là cái gì nhỉ? Là tôi lỡ xuống sâu quá giờ đéo lên được. Có lên rác rồi lên xuyên rác. Rồi ai thua giành được. Cố lên anh. Mọi người tin anh. Anh bắn một phát thì Gaia nó cũng nổi một phát chả nào cả. Anh bắn nổi không? 3 phát. Thế. Cái vàng thô là cũng đun lên được à? Ủa, tức là mấy cái kia đều có thể đun từ vàng thô lên hết à? À, từ đồ thô hết à? Bây giờ bắt đầu chuẩn bị trộn nguyên liệu. Mà đồng của ta có một đồng ở đây gái không lên cái đầu không lên giờ anh có thể đánh được. Đợi xíu. Sao đây chứ? Dịch thành à? Tưởng đâu đồn ra.